Jebediah, bud, you know you're my favorite. So tell your brother Bob to stop saying it wrong. It's the Parliament of Papas. So we could do that at the beginning, Kurt. Would that make you feel better? Papas, come on in.
It would make more sense.
Look. All right, never mind. I'm not here. So this came from Joe and I talking earlier.
I win.
About it's not a contest. So when does a hobby become a job? Because we were talking earlier. I don't remember exactly what pre-show, and it's like I don't even think I have hobbies anymore. And he went podcasting, and after I smacked him digitally, went no. You know how hard I work at podcasting? It's not a hobby. I said, Joe, you might not consider yourself a pro, but you're definitely not a hobbyist. At worst or best, however you want to phrase it, you're an amateur podcaster because you put the effort in. So he goes, all right, there's the Parliament. When does a hobby become a job?
And Charles specified that you can't say when you get paid.
Yeah, that's not a that's
that's fair. That's a fair stipulation. Yeah, I'll allow it.
Thank you for reminding me, Joe.
Oh man. I guess it's got to be a certain level of dedication. Dedication and time, I guess, would be the two main metrics for me on when a hobby becomes a job. And I guess maybe a degree of professionalism, but that could be wrapped into dedication as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think professionalism would cover like dedication, determination, ethics. I don't know.
I guess it's a mindset in my mind, to be completely blunt, because there's some people that their idea is, yes, I get paid for it, but I've never thought of it as a job because it's so much fun and stuff like that. Like those kind of platitudes that you hear so often. So I guess, I don't know, dedication, time, and your attitude towards it are the three pillars for me on when it switches from just being a hobby to a job.
So if somebody just like golfing every weekend, would that still be, where would that level be of
how are they doing
aspiration? Maybe we should add aspiration into that list, but they aspire to be something better than just somebody who does this thing.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where I was going also with dedication to a certain extent, because you could love to play golf, but it never transforms into a job because you're only doing it to have fun. You're not necessarily doing it to improve, although you would probably like to improve. But does that mean you're, paying for professional coaching lessons or, scoping out the latest and greatest clubs? Or I don't know a ton about golf other than the surface level of it.
We couldn't tell.
You watch a documentary, Rising Impact. How do you not know these things?
So I'm gonna actually take a little bit of a different take on this. I say a hobby becomes a job when you decide that you need to make it a job, and which is a little circular reasoning. But here's my example. And this is my own personal experience. As a kid, teenager, I was very much into computer games, right? And I played, and back then we were very much nerdy, like loners, because there weren't a whole lot of us. I mean, we had our core group of friends, but it was
70s, like 90s.
Yeah, 70s, 80s primarily. And it was like, if you had three friends who were into it as well, that was awesome.
And, that's a lot of people at the time.
Yeah. And so I was home after my first semester at college, realizing that I wasn't going to be able to pay for it. And I was at a buddy of mine's house, and we were reading Electronic Gaming Magazine. And there was an ad in there for Origin Systems, who did RPGs at the time, the Ultima series, and I had been playing them, and I saw that they were in my hometown. Like literally, their headquarters was in my hometown, and I said, "Huh, I wonder if I could work there." And that planted the seed. Literally, the next day, there was a want ad in the newspaper, because newspapers were how you found jobs back then. That said, hiring testers. And I decided then I was going to give it a shot. That's when my hobby became a job for me.
That's
when
a great, yeah.
When I decided I was going to give it a shot. And so I've had that. I've been fortunate. Like, I think I'm one of the luckiest people in the world when it comes to stuff like that. I collected comics forever. I ended up working at a comic store for a short period of time between computer gaming jobs. I have been into music and played music all through school. I worked in a traveling band at an amusement park for a couple of summers. I've been able to transform.
I don't feel lucky. You've been, I wouldn't say focused like driven, but you've been focused on attracting what you love to yourself.
Maybe opportunistic. How about that? Because I was finding these opportunities that happened to be in areas that I loved. And so, and I think had I gone to college and finished the degree that I wanted, it was going to be exactly the same thing. I was into music. I loved music, and all I wanted to do was teach. So my plan was to make that a job. So I think that I really do believe that's part of that. And yes, the old adage of do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. You know, it's just like, okay.
I do a lot of what I love, and I work a lot of days.
No, but it doesn't feel as much like work because it's something you love. We see miserable people who are working because they have to. We see
Joe's right there
all the time. I think Joe likes what he does to a certain extent.
He absolutely loves what he does.
Yeah. But I think that the moment you make that change in your head that say, I wonder if I could work doing this, then it becomes a job. It just becomes a job because it's a shift. It's a different perspective of the same thing that you love.
You know, it's why I added aspiration, right? You can almost simplify it down to certain analogies of there are people who play golf and there are golfers. Now, not every golfer is a paid professional. Not everybody wants to be a paid professional, but there is a golfer and there's somebody who plays golf. I ride a motorcycle. I'm not a motorcyclist because it rains, it's cold, not for me, but there's motorcycle. They live and breathe that thing kind of deal. It's kind of how I'm looking at it. And I got to say to Joe, how dare you come when I do a hobby, sir? You wouldn't be here. Anyway, sorry, off the rant. But no, it is, I rate a kid, made a point, says I'm very serious about getting better at certain video games, but I wouldn't consider that a job. Or, you know, we could substitute the word professional or that kind of thing. I spend a lot of time watching professionals play to see, this is also a random kid. I spend a lot of time watching professionals play to see what I can learn and try to adapt. I play a lot, but it's not a job. And I think that's something that maybe you can walk away from, maybe not. I would say it's not a hobby when it's a part of who you are, right? And there are people who've built model trains. Oh, now look who forgot to go to the bathroom. All right, you didn't hear me, but Kurt's walking away. But you know what I'm saying, Joe? There's growing up, I always thought I never actually knew anybody who did that model train thing. But there are people who build models all the time. Then you would know that person in their basement. Lego Movie, right? The dad had the basement full. That's not a hobby. I mean, he crafted this whole world of Legos, that kind of thing. And
then he craggled them.
And he craggled them up. Yeah. But I know you're just being funny, but it kind of hit me for a second. It's like, I am known more for podcasting than anything else I've ever done in my life. And what Kurt said made a lot of sense. is I always was driven to be on stage, be in front of people. And so I chose a path of music because I thought it was my path. And that got me towards podcasting. And then once it clicked, I went, this is not what I do. This is who I am. And I will find a way to make that work for me. And that's what he was saying with the, I wonder if I could work for that company. And then opportunity showed itself. Because I would dare say, to Random Kid's point of the gaming and all this other stuff, he says, I know you say getting paid is not a factor in discussion, but I think it's an important aspect when you consider it a job. But I would dare say, when you say you were very serious about getting better at certain video games, Random Kid, if you had the opportunity to leave your job and only play that game, it doesn't sound like that would be an opportunity for you. And my brother-in-law was the same way. He used to be able to really cook. He's crazy. His back crap right now, and it's not working anymore. But he used to be able to really cook, and he used to be able to really draw. I mean, he still can. He just won't do big pictures anymore. He just doodles all the time, and it's fantastic. I said, dude, you hate your job, you hate your life. Why are you not doing this? And see, he had the wrong mindset. His mindset was, well, the second you have to do it for money is no longer fun. I was like, well, if you believe that, it never will be.
That's on you. That's on
Exactly.
you. That's
Exactly.
completely on you. It's how you approach it.
This whole discussion makes me want to quote Dash from Incredibles.
Hey, you guys!
No,
Oh, wait, that's not Dash, sorry.
when he gets the super suit and he goes, it defines who I am.
you know, yeah. You know, when you have a title like Rock Got a Podcasting, it defines who you are and everything that you do.
You just may not like the definition.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So what's funny, when Joe did come along, it was very much a hobby at first, something interesting, but he was very opportunistic, which I think he was always born to be a professional at it, because there's an opportunity. Because why not? I'll step up. Why not? I'll step up. And every step of the way, sometimes I've had to push him and bribe him. Sometimes I've had to trick him, but he's leveled up his game every single time, because it is like, tell me I'm wrong here, Joe. It fulfills something inside of you that you could have just said, oh, it's a fun hobby to talk about Pokemon and it's fun. But you know what? I got my kids, I got my family, I got my job. I'm okay. But what we do here fulfills something in you that the other parts don't. Yeah,
it does. I enjoy podcasting, to be honest, a lot more than I ever thought I would. Every step of the way, I have thought about different ways that I could be improving as a podcaster, whether it be through equipment or presentation or whatever. And so I think that mentality of wanting to improve could definitely be an aspect of treating it as a job. Although I've seen plenty of people at their actual jobs that they have no desire to improve.
Yeah.
And so, it's just, it makes it interesting to put a definition on it, because a job is very subjective based on who you talk to, on what constitutes a job.
You remember previous to this last Dragon Con, I asked you a question as we really were picking up this last year in 2024 with Wise and Nerdy. Do you remember what the question was?
Nope.
Because it defined how we moved forward.
Do you want mustard or mayo?
Yes.
Do you want venison chili or do you want chicken chili for your cinnamon rolls? That was, if the opportunity presents itself, would you leave your job to do this full time? Because I needed a yes to be able to move forward. Otherwise, we couldn't. Because I knew where I was. Kurt knows a lot of the stories, not all of them, but a lot of working with people who their answer was like no, or they never thought about it, and it just was foreign to them. I was like, at this point in my life and career, I need a yes, so I know who I'm working with. And of course, you did say yes, but that was the defining question that I bluntly asked you and some other people, not related to the show, but it was, hey, if we're gonna work on this project, I need to know that if time comes, you will leave your job and you will understand that sacrifice needs to be made sometimes, short term, not long term. I don't want you to lose your family, but and even then I had to be like, hey Joe, you want to do cons? I don't think Kelsey would let me. All right, how about if we do cons in your backyard? All right, cool, let's do that. And now he travels to Atlanta 2 or 3 times a year for cons. And my next goal is for us to go play Vegas. I don't know. But Kurt, I mean, what do you think about that? Would that be a definition of, hey, if the opportunity comes, would you leave your job? And if your answer is yes, it's not a hobby.
To me, no, and because it still relies too much on luck. I think because look, I mean, we saw it during COVID. Am I allowed to say COVID? I can't remember.
I don't know why people don't say COVID.
No, I know. It's crazy, but I think that there were things where people were doing podcasting, for example, to just kill time because they couldn't do anything else.
And
right?
That's a hobby, yeah.
And that's a hobby, but in some cases that took off and became a job because the opportunity just happened to hit at the right time.
Sure.
Right. And we see it with influencers, TikTok, Instagram, there are people who hit at the right time, gained a ton of followers, and now make money doing that. So that's that. There's a, but they weren't shooting for that. They were killing time, and they wanted to do the best they could with what they were trying to accomplish. But it was never meant to be a full-time job, and then it became one.
Right, but I would argue that their path still had a choice, and it's like, well, when this picks up, do I work it like a job? Because you do have to. I don't care. For those of you who don't understand how influencers work, they work a lot behind the scenes, and
no question,
spreadsheets, and it is marketing meetings, and it is hiring people, and it is going to I mean, depending on what level you play at, it's going to interviews and photo shoots, and it's a job. But
that's why. That's why I'm not sure that it becomes a job till that happens. Versus, let's say Joe says, you know what? I just got laid off from my computer job. I'm going to lean into Twitch and see if I can make that work. Right. And so then that becomes his job, whether he's making any money at it or not. His intent is to make a living through that means.
I got you, Joe. You want to go full on Twitch? You're going to be a Minecraft Twitcher who is Herman Munster cosplaying as Peter Griffin. There you go, buddy. You got it. I get it. You got your spin. I get. It's a little bit of, but you got aspirations in there, right? I would dare say, I see it happen. I see it happen at Dragon Con, that there are people who get on a panel, and that's the only thing they ever do. And like, they never come back to Dragon Con again. And it's like, okay, well, you had that opportunity. Whether you realize it or not, that was your opportunity. And you took it, but you didn't know. You've been on multiple panels, whether you've physically been there or not, Kurt. So, I mean, you should feel attacked, but that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
But it's very much of a, why did you take the opportunity and then succeed at it and then walk away from it? And I think it's because people don't realize sometimes what they have. But that's a different conversation, hobby versus professional, whatever. I used to have a hobby of building computers. I got paid to build computers. That never became a professional. Because I don't aspire to keep doing it. I don't aspire to keep up on the times. I didn't even build the computer that's sitting next to me. I bought it this time around. I just know enough to know what specs I'm looking for, and I actually got Reddit help and Joe help. But podcasting, I think Gary Vaynerchuk kind of said it best in his book, Crushing It, where he said, what is the thing that you will stay up till 2 a.m. talking about for free?
Yep.
That's your passion. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you go make it a profession, but it is what drives you. And I think that's what you got to understand is I take jobs for either opportunity, which was the EMS job and the teaching job before that, because there's opportunities for me to try to build new muscles and step into arenas that I was interested in. But the money was because I needed to pay my bills. And, now, as we talked about earlier, transitioning into the real me and the ascension phase, and it's scary, but it's still what I was born to do. And I've done it long enough that people who could afford to help me pay my bills while I did it will support me in that. Go to wiseandnerdy.com/Patreon. No, it's patreon.com/wise_nerdy now. Help fund my dreams. But no, the reality is, I mean, Kurt, you currently are turning your hobby of 3D printing into now, I don't know if it's a profession. I don't know how you define it, but you're definitely going to make some money on your hobby.
Yep.
But if you had to choose between three things, if you had and your day job is gone, right? You have to choose podcaster or voiceover or 3D printing.
Yep.
I would dare say 3D printing is the one that gets chopped off easily. As far as that's your main focus job.
Well, clearly he should 3D print some stuff with voice boxes where he does the voice acting for it.
Right. Yeah. That's really simple stuff too. Yeah, I mean,
it's a stupid straw man argument, but you know,
it is a little difficult. But I mean, if I'm choosing from all three of those, then voiceover wins in a heartbeat.
That's what I would imagine.
But I do work at all three. I would say right now 3D printing really is, even though the intent is to make money with it, it is more hobby-ish at this point. I will tell you that like one of my actual hobbies is
Elatro.
That's a psychosis.
You're like, no, that has gone well beyond a hobby. That's a job.
Yeah. But one of my actual hobbies is my barbershop quartet singing stuff. And so I will tell you, I've gotten paid a decent amount from that, but the intent was never to make that a full-time job, ever.
Fair. I get you.
We would make money to help fund the hobby.
Yeah.
So and I've made more money with that than not than voiceover, but certainly more than 3D printing.
So if we boiled it down, a hobby becomes a job when you want to make it your full-time gig.
That's kind of what I was talking about. Like when you decide that it's going to be a job is where I think it becomes a job.
Sure.
Because look, even the golf pro, right? The golf pros don't go, oh my God, I made the PGA. Now I'm a pro. No, they go, I'm working my butt off so that someday I can be a pro.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between the golfer that wants it to be their job and the hobbyist, the game player. You know, I golf.
Fair enough. You know, I caddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fredo Kiss says I'm the next Happy Gilmore.